Join me today as we talk about an anime film from 40 years ago, Vampire Hunter D. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about Vampire Hunter D, an anime film celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. That's its 40th anniversary of its release in Japan. It didn't come to America until quite a bit later, sometime in the early 90s. So, I think... okay, let me phrase this as a story here. I went to go watch the movie in a theater last night. This is the 11th. Yeah, April 11th. 2025, you're watching this in some distant future. So Sarah and I went to go watch it last night in a theater. And this is part of the 40th anniversary celebration. There's a company, Iconics, I believe is the name of the company, who put it on, similar to Fathom Events that I've mentioned before. And I'll put links to both of those down in the description, along with the usual Amazon affiliate links if you're interested in a physical copy. I don't know for sure if or where it is streaming at the moment. If I get this up in time, it is also, let's see, today's 11th, 12th, 13th. It'll also be on again on the 13th. And I believe it'll be subtitled on the 13th, but I could be mistaken because I know that it kind of alternated because it was also on the 9th in select theaters. And the 9th it was subtitled, yesterday it was dubbed, so I believe it'll be subtitled in the final showing. This is the same company that put on Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack that I talked about a month ago. Actually, it wasn't a month ago, it was a couple weeks ago. So anyway, I've seen the movie before. I've got it on DVD, and along with its sequel, Vampire Hunter D: Bloodlust. So, but it's been a while since I've watched the movie, and so there was definitely some parts that I was like, yeah, I really don't remember this. And towards the end, kind of had to use the restroom, and I was trying to remember exactly how the movie played out, because I didn't want to miss certain parts of it. And ultimately, it was one of those like, well, I think we're close enough to the end that I'll just wait. And Sarah had never seen it. I thought for some reason that we had watched it, or that she had seen it before. And so she was like, this is a pretty weird movie. I was like, well, it's 80s anime, kind of par for the course. Which is not to say that Bloodlust doesn't have its own weird moments as well. It does. So the movie, if you have never seen it, is, I'll get to that here in a moment. I just want to say that seeing it on the big screen was nice. It did have an introduction that talked a little bit about the history of the movie, the people who made it, some of the technical aspects, seeing some tropes that have emerged in Japanese video games and other anime originate here. And also that when it came to Blu-ray, they created a new dub for the movie, and I believe that's what they used in this, because some of the lines were different from what I recall from having watched it previously. And when I get the chance, I'm going to check out my DVD copy and see if that's the case. Also, some of the voices I thought were different, so I'm pretty sure it's a different dub. Because I don't think they would have mentioned that if they didn't use the Blu-ray for this version. It was also interesting that it was in 3:4, the 3:4 aspect ratio instead of 16:9. It was formatted for a TV screen and not a movie theater screen. So that's interesting. For those of you who've seen older TVs, they're closer to a square, whereas modern TVs are more like a movie theater screen. They're widescreen. So, and you get that, with older shows as well, even when they update them and put them on TV, unless they go in and zoom the picture in, which cuts things out, then there's nothing to work with. Or unless they were filmed in widescreen but then cut down for TV, and they still have the film print somewhere. So that's why there are other anime series that, you know, even when you present them on a wide screen, there's going to be black bars on the sides because they were made for TV, not for a widescreen screen. But yeah, so I thought the picture was very, you know, clear and looked great. The movie sounded great. There's a few more kind of like standoffish, haha, here's my true power kind of moments than I recalled there being in the movie, because those scenes don't really exist in Bloodlust. And there were some other things that the characters said that are kind of contradicted in Bloodlust, in fact. Whenever, and I can never remember her name, the character who is Count Magnus Lee is the main vampire, and it's his daughter. She's like, oh, vampires don't have time for trifle things like love. And I'm like, you didn't see the sequel, did you? Because they most certainly do. So, yeah. Yeah, and Dee was a little more helpful in more like a social setting, talking to the main girl who's been bit, her brother, you know, trying to tell him, like, you know, you need to do these things, it's what it is to be a man. Whereas I think in Bloodlust he would have just been like, that stupid kid, and kept on going. So overall, like I said, I really liked the presentation. I thought the picture is nice and crisp, and there's definitely other anime movies I would love to see on a big screen. I'd love to see Akira, and I know that it has played here in the U.S. That was I think it was the first anime film in U.S. theaters. I think it would look spectacular. I own it on DVD, not even Blu-ray, and it's got to be one of the best pictures of any movie. Like, forget animated or live action, but any movie, period, that I own. So, on a big screen, I imagine it looks fantastic. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the sequel to Vampire Hunter D. I'd love to see Bloodlust. Because while the animation is really good in this, I think it's significantly better in Bloodlust. Now, I mean, it's, you know, it was made years later, late 90s, early 2000s, I think. So, obviously, animation had evolved, you know, in the 15-year interim. So, it has a spectacular looking picture too. You can see clips of it all over YouTube if you look. Actually, I think the whole movie's on YouTube somewhere if you look right. Love to see those. There's a few others just off the top of my head. I can't think of the Street Fighter 2 animated movie. I'd like to see that on a big screen. That came out in the 90s. Then there's a few others I was talking to Brian about. I can't remember what else we said off the top of my head in the conversation, but there's definitely a few others that I think would really look spectacular. And there's a few short series that I think you could run the whole thing. Like several of the Gundam, like the War in the Pocket's only 6 episodes. And assuming, I'd have to double check, but if they're the normal 22-minute episodes, then that's just barely over 2 hours. Yeah, 22, that'd be 66, 132. Yeah, it's just over 2 hours. Stardust Memory, if I remember right, is 12 episodes. So it'd be about twice as long. It'd be a long movie, but you could do it, or you break it up into 2. Or just the 3 OVAs of the original Gundam series. Those would be nice. Just to see the whole thing. Now, each of those is like a feature-length movie, though. So, I mean, I'd watch them all in one day, but that's just me. I mean, I'd watch the 6 Star Wars movies I care about in one day, if it were an option. Hell, you could throw in Rogue One and Solo, and I'd watch all 8. But, yeah. I've watched 6 movies in one day before in a theater, so yeah, I'd do it. But anyway, just in general, more anime films on the big screen would be nice. I know that Fathom Events runs the Hayao Miyazaki movies a lot, and It just hasn't worked out scheduling wise for me to be able to go watch them, but I would like to see several of them, because I've only actually watched Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, and Princess Mononoke. I've not watched Howl's Moving Castle, or any of the others that he's really well known for. But that one I'd like to see. I'd like to see The Wind Also Rises. I think it's The Wind Rises or The Wind Also Rises. Because I've heard that's an interesting movie. That's not fantastical like a lot of the others. It's about a real guy in Japan who was an aircraft designer, and it's his pre-war, I think, for the most part, because he eventually was the gentleman who developed the Japanese Zero. But that's not what Miyazaki focuses on, and I'd kind of like to see that. So, but yeah, definitely a lot of other anime films I'd like to see on the big screen. So, anyway, so in case you've not seen this movie and you're curious what I'm babbling about, Vampire Hunter D is set in a distant future where civilization has obviously collapsed and kind of been rebuilt, and for some reason looks like the Wild West, but people have laser rifles and robotic horses. And Magnus Lee, the main vampire lord, is like 10,000 years old. He is somehow or another a descendant of Dracula. And like I said, he has a daughter. He's got like an army of mutant freaks at his command. And yeah, so he goes and he bites this local girl, and he intends on turning her and making her his bride. And his daughter's like, oh, you can't sully our bloodline with a mere human. And like, I always wonder about things like that, because unless Dracula was somehow born a vampire, which he wasn't in any mythology I'm aware of, then he became a vampire somehow or another, and obviously had to have turned other people, and then maybe was able to have kids with them. You know, if these people were somehow his descendants, like in that fashion, and not just people that were turned by him, in which case her own father was human at one point. So, like, they always have this, oh, you know, the pure blood, and I'm like, some of these people had to have been turned, like, you know, yeah, at some point you could have pure bloods, but that would be quite a bit down the line, and their ancestors would have started as human. So I don't understand in movies and shows when their vampires go on and on about stuff like this, and I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you don't understand your own background. And that turns out to definitely be the case in her case. So he bites this girl. The people in the town find out she's been bitten, but she hasn't turned yet, and they're living in fear under Count Lee, because they know he's a powerful vampire lord, and you can't just stroll up and try to kill him. Plus, again, army of mutants. So she hires D to go. He comes across him and hires him to go take out Count Lee. And the townsfolk eventually piece together that D is a dhampir, which means he's a half-breed. One of his parents was a vampire. Which I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to the punchline here. And yes, this is a spoiler for a 40-year-old movie, so here we go. If you sit and just for a moment consider that his name is Vampire Hunter D, that his name is D, is in the letter D, you can probably guess who his father is. It doesn't take a huge logical leap to reach this conclusion, but in case you're not there yet, it's Dracula. Okay? So D is ludicrously powerful, because his father is the vampire king. So, yeah. And the movies never explain if Dracula is still alive or not. I assume he's not, but I've never read the manga, so I don't know for sure. So, things happen. You know, D fights some of the mutants, shows them what's what. A few of them think they got the drop on him at a few points. Then his, more vampiric side comes out, and he basically mops the floor with them. And likewise, in the final encounter with Magnus Lee, Magnus is like, oh, well, I'll just, mere vampire hunter, ha ha ha, and even if you're a dhampir, you're sullying your legacy. And he's trying to do these various things to him with telekinesis, and then Dee's powers flare up, and, it's like the ultimate Uno reverse card, essentially. And he just knocks the shit out of Lee like it's nothing. And there's a massive portrait of Dracula there in the castle, and Lee's been like thrown up against the wall by Dee with telekinesis, and he finally sees the resemblance in Dracula's face and Dee's face and realizes who he's messing with here. And then Dee kills him and tries to convince his daughter to come with him, because his daughter has found out that she's not a pure blood vampire, she's also a dhampir, which means she could leave. She could, exist in sunlight. She doesn't have to drink human blood, and she can leave. And she's just like, no, I'm part of the house, the noble house here. So if it's going down, so am I. And he's like, well, all right, sucks to be you. I'm out. And grabs the girl and gets the hell out of there. Then the castle gets sucked into the earth, and we have a scene that kind of rivals some of the parts of 2001: A Space Odyssey, whenever Dave goes into the monolith there. So, yeah, then the castle's just kind of gone, and Dee rides off into the sunset. Sunrise, sun's up, it's noon, there's no sunset or sunrise, I'm wrong. He just kind of rides off and leaves. So, yeah, on top of all this, Dee's left hand has a face in it with eyes and a mouth that can talk and suck things in and spit things out. At one point it gets cut off, eats a bunch of dirt, sucks in this kind of vampiric cloud thing and kills it, and then gets Dee back to life after he'd been stabbed through the chest. No explanation given as to what the deal with that is. No explanation in Bloodlust either. It's just a hand that can talk. I don't know. He's more chatty in the sequel. So yeah, you got that. Yeah, I mean, other than that, it's some betrayals here and there. Characters thinking they've got the upper hand on other people that they really don't. Actually happens 3 or 4 times in the movie. Then yeah. So yeah, overall, I really like the movie. Definitely it's definitely modeled after the Western take on vampires, because I know that I've heard it claimed before that most cultures have a version of something resembling vampires, but some of them are pretty wildly different. I believe it's the Chinese that have the jumping vampires, but that could be the Japanese. And I've seen them in one movie before, and man, that was a trip. Though that was one of the most bizarre, I don't know if I should have been terrified or laughing. And the characters they got a hold of definitely weren't laughing, because they killed them, but it's just one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. But yeah, so these are definitely modeled after Bram Stoker Dracula type vampires. Then of course the mutants just have weird powers and so on. There's some weird monsters. There's clearly a whole mythology to this that I'm sure is covered in the, well, I say I'm sure, it's probably covered in the manga. But there's clearly a whole mythology going on here. And it continues into Bloodlust, where a lot of the characters are still dressed up like it's the Old West, living in towns. Some of them look like medieval Europe. The vampires are all like Dracula, the big cloaks and capes and the fine wear and everything. And this is in both movies, Magnus Lee and his name will come to me here in a minute, hopefully, in Bloodlust. Meyer Link. Although he definitely looks a little bit different. He's got, some braids in his hair and stuff like that, little details. But for the most part, he looks like what you model Dracula looks like in a European vampire sense. So, and then Carmilla looks kind of like European aristocracy. So, yeah, I think the sequel takes a lot of things to a whole other level. And definitely like the vampire's powers that Dee is having to face off against, especially Carmilla. But then there's also like the army of mutants that have been paid by Meyer Link to protect him during the day. So, and there are other vampire hunters in the sequel, and some other townsfolk, and I think the sequel is supposed to be, I think I saw it's supposed to be like thousands of years after this one, because Dee is effectively immortal. So, at least that's what the internet tells me. I don't know. Again, I haven't read the manga. So, overall, I really like the movie. It's a pretty solid 8.5. You know, I do think that Bloodlust is 8.5, maybe a 9. It's really good, and definitely if you want to see an interesting take on vampires, an interesting setting, this would definitely be an interesting setting to set like some D&D stuff in, because the vampires clearly have powers that are best attributed to being magic. So, you know, definitely something you want to look at. Like if you're going to run a vampire-centric campaign, maybe. Definitely take a look at this. Get some ideas for things your vampires could be able to do to make them, you know, more of a threat. Because D&D vampires need to be a bigger threat. So, yeah, overall, really like the movie. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. But, yeah. That's about all I can say about it. So, and I spoke to Brian about it too, and I've mentioned Brian before. He's a fan from Boston, and hopefully this year at Gen Con, if not before, I'll be able to get him in a video. Still trying to iron out the whole long distance thing. If I absolutely have to, I'm just going to use Zoom, but I'm trying to find a better solution. I need a way to test it. So. And Jim's trying to work on the problem as well now, so hopefully we'll get something accomplished. But yeah, so anyway, let me know down in the comments what you think. Have you seen the movie? Do you plan on checking it out? Does it sound interesting? If you have seen it, have you seen the sequel? And if so, what do you think? Are there any anime movies in particular you would like to see on the big screen? Or just ones that you've seen here, there, or wherever, but you think that they would be better served being more widely known? Were you like me? Did you see this on either I don't remember if it was the movie channel or TNT or both. Or not the movie channel, it's probably Cinemax by then. Cinemax or TNT or both back in the 90s. That's where I first saw this movie. I should have mentioned that like 20 minutes ago in this video, but here we are. It was on TV. And it was definitely like oh wow, what is this? This looks fantastic compared to the other stuff on TV kind of moments. There were some other movies I saw around that point in time, other anime movies. So, talk about those in another video probably. But yeah, like I said, let me know what you think about any of that down in the comments. Otherwise, if you like what you saw here, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting help us grow the channel. We always appreciate it. And obviously subscribing. We all know that's the name of the game here on YouTube. But yeah. That's all I've got. So, yeah, I'll be seeing you folks later.